My name is Adisa, and I will tell you a story that still haunts our village to this day. It is a story of arrogance, of a forgotten warning, and of spirits that do not forgive. Listen carefully, for this is not just a tale. It is something that truly happened in the village of Olowere many years ago. It was the season of harvest, a time when the villagers were preparing for the grand wedding of Chief Adekunle's only daughter, Morayo. She was to marry Akin, the son of a respected warrior from a neighboring village. This was no ordinary wedding. It was an event that would unite two powerful families, and the entire village of Olowere was invited to partake in the joyous occasion. For such a momentous event, a feast had to be prepared, one that would be spoken of Gibobals for generations. The best hunters ventured deep into the forest for game. The fishermen cast their nets far into the sacred river, and the women gathered the freshest crops from the fields. But the most important responsibility fell on the shoulders of the head chef, Baba Jare, an old but skilled cook who had served the chief's household for over 40 years. However, there was a problem. The wedding was grander than any the village had ever seen, and the food supply was running low. As the sun set on the evening before the wedding, Baba Jare grew desperate. He had heard of a place, an abandoned farmland at the edge of the village, where wild yams and herbs still grew abundantly. But there was a reason no one dared to go there. Long ago, it was said that the spirits of the ancestors wandered that land. The elders forbade anyone from taking food from that place, for it was believed that once something was taken, the spirits would come to take something back in return. It was a warning passed down for generations, but in that moment, Baba Jare chose to ignore it. He took a lantern and made his way to the cursed land. The moment his feet touched the soil, an eerie silence fell around him. The wind stopped blowing, and even the night creatures refused to stir. But his hunger for praise clouded his judgment. He dug up large yams, picked the finest herbs, and returned to the palace, satisfied that he had saved the feast. The wedding day arrived, and the celebration was grander than anyone had imagined. Drummers played, women danced in colorful wrappers, and the aroma of roasted meat and spicy soups filled the air. People laughed, feasted, and drank deeply, unaware of what was to come. But as night fell, a sudden stillness took over the village. It began with a faint whisper, like wind passing through dried leaves. Then, one by one, the wedding guests began to collapse. Some clutched their stomachs, groaning in pain, while others fell into a deep, unnatural sleep. Panic spread like wildfire. The chief's men ran to fetch the healer, Mama Ogidi, who quickly examined the fallen guests. Her face turned pale. She called for Baba Jare immediately. "Tell me, old man, where did you get the yams used in the feast?" Fear gripped Baba Jare's heart. He knew he could not lie. Trembling, he confessed his sin. Gasps filled the air. The elders shook their heads in horror. Mama Ogidi turned to Chief Adekunle. "The spirits have been offended," she said gravely. "They have come to collect what is theirs." The chief fell to his knees, his eyes wide with despair. "What must we do?" he begged. Mama Ogidi took a deep breath. a sacrifice must be made. The spirits must be appeased before dawn, or the souls they have touched will never awaken. The villagers wasted no time. A white ram was brought forth, its wool as pure as fresh palm wine. The elders carried it to the forbidden land, chanting prayers to the ancestors. The moment the ram's blood touched the earth, a cold gust of wind howled through the trees, and a shadowy figure appeared in the distance. It stood tall, faceless, watching. Then, just as suddenly as it had come, the presence vanished. The next morning, those who had fallen ill awoke, weak but alive. The wedding, however, was no longer a joyous occasion. It had become a story of warning, a reminder that the spirits of Olowere were not to be trifled with. Baba Jare did not cook for another festival again. He lived the rest of his days in silence, his eyes always filled with the weight of his mistake. And to this day, no one dares to step foot on the cursed land again. So when the elders speak, listen. When they warn, obey. For some boundaries are not meant to be crossed, and the dead do not take kindly to the living who forget their place.